take action in what you're doing. You don't have to go for like the home run like I did and work with big landlords, but whatever you have to do to get your foot in the business, try it out and do it. You'll be okay. You'll figure it out. Do some research in advance in what you're doing. Do spend time on the education side of it. Figure out how to manage your problems and stress. And whether it's like meditation, working out, playing sports, hanging out with friends, whatever it is, do figure out how to handle your stress, because this business, you'll have a lot of stress.
This is the Fit Investor Podcast, where we talk about how to live a more holistic life of being fit, not only financially, but physically and faithfully. We'll be joined by experts in all these areas to share their experiences and actionable and practical tips so that you can be a fit investor too. So now let's join our hosts, Cale Delaney and Brenna Carls.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Fit Investor. I am your host, Cale Delaney, here with Brenna. Should we put her on the spot to sing today, Carls?
No, that's a negative.
Maybe next podcast.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks. And today's special guest is Syed Lateef, and he's the CEO and owner of Syed B&B. And this guy's got a lot going on. He coins himself as the first and only 8-figure Airbnb host on Instagram, which is pretty cool. But he's got 300 plus Airbnbs, 100 plus employees, did over 10 million in Airbnb revenue in 2022, and on track for double that, 20 million this year, which is crazy, which comes out to an average of 30,000 plus a day in gross revenue on Airbnb. But more importantly, he's a family guy, philanthropist, and exotic car collector. And today we look forward to talking with him because as we're chatting offline, he's actually the first arbitrage guy that we've had on the show here. So look forward to hearing about that and learning more about that. So welcome to the Fit Investor.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I want to clarify one thing of what you mentioned. Initially, when I made my forecast last year or goal for this year, it was 20 million, but a lot has changed. My growth actually wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be this year. And also the demand was down this year. Fortunately, I'm flat from the previous year. I'm forecasting to be coming in at $11 million, but it's still a substantial business.
11 million net or gross?
Gross, not net.
And you own 300 properties.
I lease 300 properties. So like my net last year on that 10 million was $1 million net income.
Okay.
Nice.
And this year it's going to be actually less than that, even though my revenue increased because my RevPAR per unit decreased.
I have a lot of questions, so
yeah,
we'll get into it.
Yeah. So this year I'm forecasting around $750,000 net.
Okay. Well, very good sized business. You've obviously grown quite a bit. So let's hear about the background. Let's hear about a little bit more about who you are and how you got here.
Yeah, sure. It was initially back in 2017 is I got into this like BiggerPockets craze where I listened to every single BiggerPockets podcast. I was working in corporate finance at the time, and I wanted to figure out ways to how to replace my like 9-to-5 income and get like long-term wealth. So I was ready to take action, and I purchased my first multifamily property. It was a 4-unit building plus basement. I used a low money down financing, FHA. So I had to live in one of the units for some time. So I furnished it nicely and everything. And then after I was able to move back, I put that unit on Airbnb. And then it was initially when I put it on, it made like double the rent. And I was like, whoa, like this is something like crazy. And then as the months kept on coming up in the summertime busy season, it ended up making 3 times the rent. So that's when I said, wait, hey, if I add more units in my building to Airbnb, am I going to get the same result? So every unit I put on, I was getting that 2 to 3 times rent that I was getting in the initial ones. So after making my entire building Airbnb, it's, hey, I don't want to work anymore. I want to be able to do this full time. The light bulb went off and it was like, hey, let's take action and leave my job. And this might be a once in a lifetime opportunity. It's my golden ticket. Let's create a business and figure out how I could grow it. So it was like maybe 3-4 months into doing Airbnbs when I gave my notice to my job.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very quick. And I told them like, hey, I'll give you like a month, 6 weeks for me to leave. And they came back asking me if I could stay part-time and keep my benefits. I said, okay, that's a pretty good deal. But like even during that time, I was like checked out. I was just like focusing on my business. After 6 more months, that's in January 1st of 2018 is when I went full-time into Airbnb.
What did you do for your W-2 job?
I worked in corporate finance at Allstate Insurance.
Oh, look at you. Okay.
Yeah, so I did expense management for IT.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
That sounds
boring.
Yeah. I'm in finance too.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure everything to everybody else outside of finance sounds boring, but when I hear IT, I'm like, no, I'm good.
Yeah. So basically all like the IT hardware and software type purchases that Allstate Insurance had is we had to manage the budget. That's our job. My
But
job.
you've already had experience with budgets and stuff like that. You started with a true rental arbitrage, which is going in with that FHA loan, living there for a year or however long, and then renting it for more than your mortgage payment was. But now, when I said you own 300 properties, you said you rent out 300 properties. So are you doing master leasing arbitrage or what are you doing?
Yeah, that's correct. Now I'm doing a master lease arbitrage. So initially I started off with purchasing my first building, and then after making all those units Airbnb, I wanted more, but I didn't have any more capital to be able to put another down payment on another building. And I couldn't do that low money down anymore. I had to get like the 20-25%, and I didn't have savings of that dollar amount. So at the time I was like, hey, how do I get more units? And then I started like researching on Google, is there management companies out in my market that are doing this? And I noticed that there was only one management company. So I said, hey, if maybe I could get into some of their market share and take some of their clients and hopefully collect 20% of revenue of somebody else's short-term rental. So I created my website, did a lot of SEO, and I started ranking like first on Google above it beyond the other management company. It was because there was like no competition with the SEO. So like it was easy. And then all of a sudden, all these leads started coming in. And I said, this is great. I started closing on clients and ended up adding like 4 units from different people. And I'm already having enough income that was like replacing my 9 to 5. So I said, okay, this is an opportunity. If I'm able to grow this, it'd be great. But then soon after, I received this one client that had 20 units. I spent maybe 4 months onboarding her units. And within the 4 months, I had 1 month of actually managing it. And then she like cut me off after 1 month saying this is not for her. She's going to take her units back. And so that was like a devastating blow to go from 10 units to 30 units back down to 10 units.
Right.
And she literally took a lot out of me, and it showed me that, hey, that business model is not something that I want to spend majority of my time with. But so then going back is I went to this one random networking event that was at some type of restaurant bar. It was a smaller networking event, and it was a group of people talking in a circle. And I introduced myself, and then one person in the circle was like, hey, we're looking for people to do Airbnb in our buildings. And I was like, whoa, I can't believe somebody even said that. I'm like, me, I could do it. Can I have your phone number? Can I reach out to you? And she's like, yeah, sure. Here you go. She gave it to me. And then I started following up with her. She was just a employee in a larger company of this one landlord who had maybe 1,000 units at the time. And she said, okay, like I'll put you in touch with the property manager. So I started reaching out to the property manager every few days, every few weeks. I wouldn't get like the best response. Finally, I started reaching out every day, and then he would just make excuses. And then finally I started arriving to the office. And then it was like one day after 5-6 months of persistence, he was fed up with me, and he's, listen, just talk to the owner. I'm going to stay in the hallway. He's going to come on and talk to you. So like the owner comes out, like super alpha male. He didn't even let me say a word. He just goes off and saying, I'm not getting into the furniture business. I'm not buying Airbnb. I'm not buying furniture to put in Airbnbs. I'm in the real estate business. I'm sorry, we cannot do this. And then right on top of my mind, I was like, okay, listen, how about I lease 2 units? I furnish it and I just pay you the rent. And at the time he has 1,000 units, probably 150, 200 units vacant. And he was like, he kept quiet for a second. And then he was like, you know what? If you pay the rent and don't cause any issues, go ahead, take these 2 units. And that's when my lease arbitrage business started. And this was like even before the lease arbitrage name was even like, there was never existed. Even Sonder started in like 2017, and I didn't hear of Sonder. I didn't know what they were doing, but he gave me those 2 units. I furnished them. Taking it back a little bit, I asked for 2 months free up front. That was like a huge concession for me. One, I spent money to furnish it, but I was able to recoup that money back within 2 months, most of it, maybe 75%, 80% of it. And then I went to him. I'm like, hey, we've been in here for a couple months now. Do you have more units that I can take on? And he's, yeah, you've been doing good. I could give you these 4 more units. And then I took those 4 units, asked for those 2 months free, got my initial investment back quickly. And then I went to him again. I'm like, hey, can you do more? So all of a sudden, just going back to him for the next few months, asking for 2 more, 4 more, 10 more. We ended up getting into a total of 35 units with that one landlord.
Wow.
So do you do mostly Airbnb?
85% of my reservations are on Airbnb, but I'm also on like booking.com, VRBO, Expedia. I'm on all the sites, but 85% of my business came from Airbnb.
I'm intrigued by the lease agreement that he made you sign. So usually like a lease agreement for a long-term rental, if you're the tenant, obviously it's just you take care of the monthly payment, utilities, or whatever it is. Here is the damage deposit or pet deposit if you have a pet. So did he add in a clause about you having to fix things in the unit if these guests mess something up? What was that for him? Because I know that would be an added layer of risk for the people that own that building.
That is true. So one is we use a standard lease for a long-term tenant, but we put one clause in there saying that Airbnb/short-term rental is allowed. Now that standard lease has a box that says it's not allowed, but we like now X out that box and say it is allowed. But the relationship between me and him is a normal landlord and tenant relationship. I handle the utilities, you handle the maintenance behind the walls. But say I do something to destroy the unit, like I put holes in the walls or like I'm smash the toilet in half or whatever the case is, it's just known that that is my fault and my expense, and I need to handle that.
Got it. If you have to file a claim, for example, for a guest, let's say a guest breaks a toilet in half, which if you break a toilet in half, I don't know how much Taco Bell you ate or whatever it is to constitute that. But does like air cover that since you don't own the property itself, or how does that work?
Yeah, air cover should cover that. They give you like a liability coverage up to $1 million from what I remember.
Okay.
But a lot of the times, like for me, it's the cost of doing business. I am not going to spend time waiting for Airbnb to pay out that dollar amount. I'm going to go and fix it immediately because I need to get the next guy in. And I'll have my people on the back end do what they can to get any type of compensation from Airbnb. But Airbnb plays a game. They say, no, sorry, we're not going to cover it, or we're going to pay 50% of your invoice. And then until you start saying, hey, no, I need to talk to the supervisor, and you escalate it.
Right.
Like Airbnb does cover it, but you should either have your own insurance coverage above and beyond Airbnb, if you don't want to take that risk, have enough money to be able to handle those situations, which I do.
Renters insurance, or what kind of insurance do you get on?
No, renters insurance is not going to cover you for any type of Airbnb type thing. So there's companies out there like Properly and like Safely that have insurance coverage. For me, they're a little too expensive. I cannot do it on my scale. They're probably for the smaller or the bigger homes, because I have studio 1-bedroom apartments that the same dollar coverage, from my understanding, is the same as if you have a 5-bedroom home, $100 a month. So it's not financially worth it for me to do it times 300. It ends up being like a huge dollar amount.
Yeah,
did you have to get your property management license actually, or did you not?
So no, I didn't. I do have a real estate license now, but for the intention of buying property for myself to save on the commissions and do any offers that I wanted to do. But at the time, they are the licensed management company. I was just leasing the units. This business model is so new that there's no like laws and regulations that were there at the time. maybe that'll get implemented in time, or somebody will make an argument, oh yeah, you need some type of license to do something like this. But this is new stuff, right? Even banks don't understand this business model.
Right.
They don't want to fund on this business model. I've tried to get like lines of credit, and they're like, just this is not the business that we want to be in. Insurance companies, I reach out to 15 insurance companies, and one of them ends up replying back, yes, we can insure you. But to be honest, I don't even think they understand my business model, and they're insuring me just to say like, and I'm just using their insurance just to say I have insurance. If something happens, let's see if they cover me in a certain situations. This business model is so new and banks don't have data, insurance companies don't have data on it. They don't understand the model. So it's tough at the moment. But yeah, I'm losing track on the question. But
Well, no,
yeah,
but
yeah,
at the
fascinating.
end of the day, yeah, you're not technically a manager of these properties. You are simply the lessor, right? You're,
hopefully that argument holds up and somebody that wants to like get me in trouble. But yeah, that's yeah.
Wait, did you create an LLC?
So I created an S corp for my business.
Cool.
So the
Okay.
dollars are passed through.
So you're able to write off the furniture and stuff that you purchased.
Oh, yeah.
For units and stuff.
Yeah, it's I forgot the section, what it's called, section 170 and something like that.
Yeah.
But it's all accelerated depreciation in the first year that you buy.
Cost tags, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So I want to take it back a little bit here because we're getting into the nitty gritty, which is good, but I want to take it back to learn a little bit more of your scaling, because you went, number one, you said your first property was a fourplex that you were house hacking.
Yep.
And you immediately, or not immediately, but pretty quickly thereafter, turned that into the short-term rentals, and then left your W-2 job, started getting into, I think you started with co-hosting, it sounded like initially, and then you pivoted to the arbitrage shortly, or when you hooked up with this guy who started you off of those 2 units, then 4, then ultimately 35. So what time span was it to get from that initial 2 to those 35 with that guy?
When I left my job January 1st, 2018, I had about like 10 units. Like it was like 6 of them being mine.
Okay.
And 4 of them being other clients. And then after getting those 2 units from that initial landlord, I think it maybe took me about a year with that landlord until the end of 2019 to get 35 with him.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's 35 it took a year to onboard because I didn't have the cash to onboard 35 at once. It was adding 2, collecting that money back from those concessions, then adding 4 more, and then this constant cycle of reusing that capital over and over to allow me to scale to that 35.
So what about, I guess first, were you doing this on your own, or did you have a partner or else helping you?
No partners. I had a family member. My sister helped me to start the business, but she was like just more of the designing and setting up the units.
Okay.
She at a point really liked doing interior designing, but I think I ruined that for her because of how many units that she had to put up. It went from a passion to a job. Yeah. So basically it took me a year to scale up with that one landlord.
Okay.
And then I started thinking like, hey, this is great. I had 35, 45 units at the time. And I'm like, this is great, but all my eggs are in one basket with this one landlord. And I said, we started doing things on handshakes, saying that, oh, we're using the standard lease and we'll work on doing a master lease agreement that consists of all 35 units. And we started doing things on handshakes just to get them onboarded quickly. And then I started thinking like, hey, I have all my eggs in one basket with this one landlord. If he takes me through my slow season and then all of a sudden says like this model's not for him, and he tells me to get out of these 35 units, I'm in big trouble because I'll take crazy losses in my slow season, and all of a sudden he'll kick me out. But I think I was thinking too much because he had no intention of that, and I think I rattled some cages because of that, and we got on some bad terms after. But anyways, I started going to other landlords that had similar sized portfolios as this initial landlord. And because he is well known in like the market that I'm in, by me working with him, it gave me a reputation. It gave me credibility. And it took my initial landlord, it took me like 6 months to convince them finally to get some units. The next guy, it took me like 3 months or 2 months. And then the next guy, it took me 2 weeks. I said, hey, I'm doing business with XYZ. can I do a similar model with you? And they say, hey, you're doing work for him. Let me reach out to him and say, hey, is he doing a good job? Is he paying your rent?
Right.
And it was significantly easier to convince the next guy to do short-term rentals in his units when the first guy gave me credibility.
You have
recommendations. So now with the next guy, landlord number 2, at the time it started off with just 2 units. But fast forward 3-4 years later, I have 185 units with that second landlord. I'm not doing business with the first landlord, but yeah, now it's 185 with the second landlord.
Wow.
So let me ask you, so now it's like the Airbnb revolution, right? Self-managing and stuff like that. Are you afraid that they are going to say, you know what, I realize that we can do this by ourselves and not have to have you? Do you think that they would do that, and if not, why?
One is we are in 2 totally separate businesses. They are in the real estate business. That's the only one business they know. Above and beyond real estate, they do things like raising capital from other people. They do contracting work. They do management work. All these things are like a lot of like things to do. And that's like a typical real estate umbrella company. Like they do 4, 5, 6 of the same things, and every single company is the same. And that's a lot of work in itself. If you add in hospitality to it, then you're talking about a whole different business where nobody has all these different umbrellas plus hospitality. By all means, if you want to do that, go ahead. But it's like now it's communicating with 5,000 guests a month versus your 1,000 tenants. Now it's 5,000 guests, and those 1,000 tenants are per year. Now you're talking about 5,000 guests a month. The amount of volume traffic coming in and out, doing pricing, doing cleaning management, doing guest management, doing supplies management. It's like you're talking about you need a whole infrastructure of teams. No, I'm not worried about that at all. There are other risks that end up having me to give back a lot of units, but me having them go into the business is not one of them. But don't get me wrong, there has been the case that has happened to me too. And that guy has a lot of money and was able to scale it up too. But that is not my concern going into a relationship with any landlord.
Yeah, I think that's why we don't see crossover between the multifamily industry and the hotel industry, right? Completely separate business models that require, like you said, completely separate infrastructures, sets of skills, et cetera. So is it possible? 100%.
Yeah.
But typically at that level, people are going to keep focusing on what they're good at.
Right. Exactly. And even on my end, I have no interest in figuring out the maintenance model, property management model. I don't want to manage buildings. I don't want to call plumbers. I don't want to call like electricians. That is not what I'm good at, because I have had people come to me and say, I want you to Airbnb it plus manage it. And I'm like, no, that's not my business. I cannot do that. And I'm not good at that. I stick to what I'm good at.
Yeah, let's talk about that then, the systems and processes, because even that first year, scaling from 0, or I guess not, but close to 0 to 35, and then from 35 to whatever it was that second year, that's a lot to do just on your own. So walk us through that. Like, how are you building up your systems and hiring people along that time, or just walk us through that?
Yeah. So I'll tell you where I'm at right now with my people. And then I'll go back in time. So at the moment, I have about 100 people in my business helping me, right? 50% of those people are located in the Philippines. My entire back end work, my entire leadership, my entire high level type work is out of the Philippines. And then in my local market, it's all cleaners, runners, 2 maintenance guys, property managers, general managers handling that. So it's not like high level salaries that are handling my work in my local market. But in my market in Philippines, I have my finance team over there handling all my forecast and budgeting, accounts payables, bookkeeping, financial reporting. They're handling all those things. Then I have my like pricing team that's doing like the pricing reporting to show me exactly how much money is coming in, what is my ADR, RevPARs, how am I pacing, what are my lead times, handling those reports on Tableau. I have my operations team that consists of multiple teams. There's like 30 people in that team in itself. It's my screening team. I'm building like a sales team now for the inquiries to like not just wait for them to book versus pushing them to book. I have my team that handles like checking in the guests and making sure they come in. Then it's like the cleaning management team that schedules all the cleaners. Then it's like the team that handles the supplies to be purchasing and then managing the runners and schedules and all that. And then I have people in the back end work handling onboarding of units, where it's like creating the listings, connecting all the like this 5, 6, 7 softwares that we have, and uploading the pictures and creating the captions and doing all that. It's everything is based out of the Philippines. My whole leadership is there. I do this one thing called Traction. It's from a book called Traction. It's called Entrepreneur Operating System.
Right.
Yeah. So I have my L10 meetings with my team in Philippines, and like we meet on a weekly basis and we go through all of our different scorecards and rocks and all that. So that's like where I'm at today. Rewinding back, how I started and why Philippines is, that's the only thing I know. I started my business out of Philippines. I hired VAs when I had like 6 units. One, I was working at the time. And number 2 is I went to another random conference where the guys were just saying, it was a real estate conference, and you're saying VAs, everybody's saying Philippines and everything. For me, my personality is I like finding like experts, like even like I always, as a young kid, I used to go on like Upwork and finding freelancers to help me handle things. So it was something that I'm always used to. I didn't have the money to afford US resources.
Right.
Philippines is 1/5 of the cost of somebody here, and they just work better.
Mm-hmm.
They are significantly better than anybody I could hire over here, in my opinion. Basically, it started with 2 VAs, and then as I was scaling units, we just kept on adding more. And it wasn't like me having to train. It was like the VAs train the next VAs and the next VAs. And then after every 3 to 6 months is I would sit down and I would, in my mind, like vision, okay, this would be my ideal organization structure with the current units that I have right now. And then I would do it again. This would be my ideal organization structure. And then I would tell my team, with the people we have, throw them into these different buckets. And this is how we're going to grow our business. And then it's just, honestly, it just went viral within itself. And they just saying, oh, we have a need in here. Oh, we need this team. We need to build this team. And we need to hire 2 more people. And it just like within themselves, it just grew to something substantial. Now, in my opinion, I feel like it's like too much. I gave them the reins to hire, because like now I use like my colleagues and like use benchmarking against what they're doing and stuff. And I'm running a way larger organization than they are with similar amount of units. So I started thinking like, hey, maybe I overhired.
Right.
Your
like,
site optimization, did you hire a company or did you learn and do that yourself?
For which one? SEO?
Yeah.
So that for my initial SEO for my business, for my property management business, I hired somebody from Upwork.
Okay.
And I don't know what he did, because it was just too complex for me to understand. He just kept on saying all this like jargon and stuff. And then it was like, all right, I'll invest this $2,000 and see what happens. But whatever he did, it gave me number 1. Now I don't have that website up because I'm not in that business. And number 2, I wanted to have my business more low key versus having too much like eyes on how many units, what I'm doing, where I'm at and stuff, for like liability purposes. Okay. So like I took down my website. But at the time, I had right off the bat to go number 1 in Google for Airbnb management company. It was like pretty cool because there was no competition, right? So nobody else putting in the keywords or doing blogs or whatever they were doing at that time, or whatever the thing is. I don't know too much about SEO anymore, but at the time, whatever he did worked.
Yeah. So what market are you in? I know you live in Chicago, but what
yeah.
Market?
So I'm in a few markets, but a majority of my portfolio is based out of Chicago.
Okay. Got it. All right.
This makes me excited to I literally am about to leave my house and go knock on apartment complexes and do it. This is awesome.
Good. I'm glad it's motivating.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it's tough. Like like you walk in and they'll look at you crazy, or they'll reject you right away. So you really have to have like thick skin to take it. You have to find some avenue in, whatever it takes.
Look at me like I'm crazy already. So I'm already used to that.
Yeah, I'm so used to rejection
Yeah.
that it doesn't phase me anymore. Where
That's
there's landlords that it's taking me 3 years of annoyingness messaging them every month to finally 3 years later they're saying, okay, fine. Like they have a motivated situation at the moment. And that's what you have to do. You just got to find a motivated landlord or motivated thing that happened to them where you could just get right in.
yeah.
And then that could eventually grow to something substantial with them. But you start off with one and you could get to 185. Start off
Yeah.
with one, you get to 35. It's all it takes is just that foot in the door.
And I think what you did a lot of things very smart, but the two things that really stand out to me that have rocketed your success in this short time, I think, are one is the persistence that you were talking about. That's where a lot of people would have stopped right in the first place.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have spent 6 months trying to get this guy to give you any units, right? The first time they got the door slammed in their face, or after a month of not getting any responses from their emails or calls, they probably would have given up and moved on.
Right.
You kept going and you got even more persistent.
Right.
To the point that you were actually showing up in person at their door.
Yeah.
Over until finally they agreed to see you. And then even when they saw you and said no, you kept going. So you came to some
Like Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
They're like, no, okay, there's still a chance. I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's huge, number one. And number two is you focused on these larger landlords, right? Because a lot of the people that I hear doing the arbitrage are just throwing spaghetti at the wall and just trying to find anybody who has maybe one unit that they can get.
Right.
Okay, now we got to find another person that has one unit. And now we got to find another person that has another unit, and just spending all this time and effort and legwork to try to get one unit by one unit by one unit, versus what you're doing, get your foot in the door with a big dog that you can scale up with that same person. And that's how you can exponentially grow. I mean, I think that's awesome.
Like my argument is like for that person that's getting that one unit from this person and one unit from next, I think that's a normal growth pattern. And I think that's something that is like a stepping stone to give you the confidence and reputation to go to a big landlord. So
Right.
I wouldn't discourage somebody from doing that, because that could essentially end up making you become somebody bigger once you have the confidence to be able to go to someone. Because if you just go straight up to one of the big guys, you might not get as lucky as me. I don't know if you could call it luck or hard work, but I put myself in a lucky situation, right? I think it's a normal progression for somebody to start off wherever they can start off, and then eventually, as time goes on, see what niche fits them. So yeah, that's my opinion on that.
No, I think that's wise. So let me ask you, so obviously you're super successful now in the arbitrage portion. You're making a really great income. What's the future? What's the game plan? Are you planning on continuing to grow this arbitrage model, or are you wanting to actually start, whether it's in short-term rentals or real estate in general, start purchasing properties of your own, or what's your game plan?
My game plan changes every 3 to 6 months. It's just going back like last year when I had a good profit for my business. My goal, I knew my summer was coming up. I was forecasting on how much money I was going to make. And I was like, okay, now it's time for me to use my $1 million net income and buy some buildings. So at the same time, I was like, hey, I'm going to get my real estate license so I could save on some commissions, put my offers on how I want to put offers on. And as each month went on, after finally, it took me like 6 months to get myself to get the license. But after each month went on, prices continuously increasing in the real estate market while interest rates were increasing in the real estate markets. And all of a sudden, by me taking all that time to get my license and figure all that out, like I lost on the dollars I would have saved, I lost on the increase of pricing and rates. And then things just didn't make sense for me anymore at that time. And all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I timed it very wrong. So I was like, listen, I don't know what's going on with rates, if prices are going to eventually drop down. Everyone in the media started saying recession, it can't happen. Like there's going to be a huge decrease in real estate values. Then I started timing the market. Then I didn't buy anything.
Right.
But to be honest, I'm very happy I didn't buy anything at that time, because how bad my winter season was in my markets, I would have had to liquidate those assets to cover my losses, I think, or I would have figured out another way of raising capital. But the money that I didn't end up spending on real estate, I ended up having to use for my reserves during my slow season. So that's one. Number two is when I did my initial EOS and L10, we talked about 1 year goal, 3 year goals, 5 year goals. And I was like in growth mode, adding crazy amount of units. I thought I would be able to continue to use my projection to add X amount of units in this year, 2023. And I thought my revenue was not going to take a 20% decrease in RevPAR in 2023. So that's when I had that like forecast of 400 units, 20 million revenue. That was like the picture perfect type target. And it all changed, right? All of a sudden, my winter, I had $1.5 million worth of net losses in 5 months, 6 months. I was bleeding cash. I used all my reserves. I started putting things on my credit cards. I had $1.2 million in my bank account going into my slow season. And then I was getting $350,000 loss November, $350,000 loss December, January, $400,000 loss, February, $300,000. Like it just kept on like adding up. And so like that, your confidence goes like crazy low. You're seeing all this cash burn. I'm starting to put things on my credit cards, like my utilities. I'm not paying rents on the first of the month. I'm waiting for the last day of the late fee period so I could collect some Airbnb income during the first 5 days. So that estimate of 400 units is not happening anymore. And then all of a sudden, the demand is way down this year than last year, which now makes sense on why, because there was a lot of pent up demand last year. And then that is normalized now.
Right.
Because of all these things. Then some other bad situations happened where I lost a significant amount of units. All of a sudden, I hit like 330, 340, and now I'm dropping down. I dropped down 40 units. Then it was 295. Then I'm adding two. And then now I have maybe another 15 more that I'm letting go. And it's, now I'm trying to do whatever I can to hold on to what I have. And it's just, at the moment, it's okay. Like so much stress and problems we're having from like cash flow situations on landlords letting go of so many units, me having to deal with 40 apartments with the furniture, and then me dealing with 100 people in my company with liability issues over here, where somebody gets in a car accident in my work truck, and then all of a sudden I'm getting sued so it's like all this stuff happening. So it's, wait, do I want to get to 400, 500, 600 units?
Right.
Do I want to have me get into a wrong relationship to allow me to lose everything that I ever made? So right now, maybe I just stick to this 300 unit number, do what I can to keep what I have, a $10 million business, make between $500,000 to $1 million in a year, and have these 100 people in my business. And can I do this for the next 5 years? 5 years would be like amazing. That's a lifetime worth of money, wealth that I could have made for my family, and not go for the grand slam and just have a nice lifestyle. Like I like my cars. I like nice things. I could buy that with that dollar amount. My kids can have every single activity and every single thing that they want. Right now, I'm happy with my business size, but maybe an opportunity comes up that I've been working on for the past 6 months, and all of a sudden I add another 50 units, 100 units in one shot. That could happen too. And then all of a sudden my whole mindset changes. No, so when you read my bio, like I probably wrote, like I had that from 3, 4, 5 months ago, and then I was changed, and ask me again in 3 months, that's going to change too. I probably have to change my forecast. It's like an ongoing thing is what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think you said a couple good things there. And first off, I want to thank you for being candid about the struggles of the business and not just all the successes, because I think that's super valuable. But the other thing though is where your mind's at right now on, like you said, maybe you don't need to go for the grand slam. Maybe you okay with where you are now. And I think that's one of the perpetual struggles that we have as entrepreneurs, right? That there technically is no ceiling. And so it's up to us as to how hard do we want to work and how much do we want to grow. And it can be an addiction of sorts, right? Of always wanting more and more, always wanting to have more and more. But then what are you sacrificing for that? And thinking about, and I think about this a lot and myself, is when is enough, right? when should I start focusing less on growing this business and start focusing on the other aspects of life, right?
Right.
Which we're going to get into a little bit here, your family, your activities, your faith. There's other things that are important in your life. It's not just all about business. So I just think that's the perpetual struggle of entrepreneurs, no matter how small or how big your business is.
Right.
When it's enough, when is it okay to be content?
Right.
And so I think it's great that you said that, because you are a very successful guy. You have a very successful business, and you're thinking, okay, maybe I can be okay with this. I know you said maybe it might change in 3 to 6 months. You never know.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Brenna Carl, CEO and co-founder of The Mortgage Shop. When I'm not spending my time searching for the best pizza in town, working out because of pizza, or fighting sharks as Kale likes to say, I spend my time educating clients on the best investment products that will help them build generational wealth and making sure their loan process is as smooth as warm butter on a piece of toast. Call us today to get started with your investment journey at 800-816-7982 or to talk more about pizza. Talk to you soon.
Like, one problem I have is I get competitive, and I have some friends or colleagues that are growing substantially at the moment. This guy named Hamza, maybe you guys seen him on Instagram and stuff, but he's somebody that like 2 years ago just started the business, and he's been spending his whole time trying to catch up to what I'm doing. And all of a sudden now he's like surpassing me in the total amount of units. And then now I get in my competitive zone. I'm like, wait, I can't let that happen. But then I don't want that competitiveness make me lose again everything that I've created. So I have to manage this this thing in me, this battle that I have, that I need to be more appreciative of what I have versus looking at like the shiny object and the next guy and the next guy, because it's going to be like that forever. So it's like something
there's always the next guy. There's always a guy who's more. And getting into that comparison game is it's prevalent, especially with social media and everything.
Right.
It's very hard not to. But I think about, and I tell this to myself a lot because I get very much so stuck in this comparison game too. There's some metaphor or whatever, paraphrase very roughly here, of there's these two builders building these skyscrapers or these big multi-story buildings. And the first guy, he was building floor by floor. And after a year, he had 5 floors built. After 2 years, he had 10 floors built. And it was going along that pace. And then the guy next to him, he built 20 floors that first year. And then he built 20 floors that next year. But then at that second year, there was an earthquake. And that guy who built those 40 floors, his building fell down. And the other guy, his building still was standing.
Right.
So I think about that a lot because, it can be easy if you position yourself. Easy is the wrong word, but you can position yourself to scale and grow super, super quickly and not build that strong foundation. And when something does happen, because something happened, is your business or are you going to be strong enough to withstand that, or is it going to crumble and fall versus the person who took things more slow and steady, the tortoise pace? I guess tortoise versus the hare, right? There you go.
No, that's a great story. That's a great analogy. And I always think of that. I give a lot of respect to somebody that can sustain the same business for many years, because a lot of things now, especially in social media, is like fast money. You see all these people saying, oh, you can make $2,000 on your first Airbnb profit every month, and it'll take you 4 weeks to get your first Airbnb. Right. And then you do this 5 times and all of a sudden you're making $100,000 a year or something. And it's just, to me, it's never that easy and that fast. And it just takes time, and there's going to be a lot of variables in space and then all of a sudden, even if you do it in 1 year and you cause so many problems with that like landlord or whatever, then next year you might have 0 units. And what did you do to build all that for? For me, is in my business, it's a lot of risk and liability. And I've been going for about 6 years now. And this is way longer than I even thought that I could even sustain this, because there has been crazy stuff that has happened to me in all these years. And I'm as good as my next decision. And my next decision that I make can't be the reason why I don't have this anymore. So I always think of that. So if I could get another 3 years out of this, I'm very happy. If I get 5 years, then it's okay. I made it. Then I don't have anything to worry about. So when somebody has any business for 5 to 10 to 15, 20 years, I give like mad respect to that. Somebody that's able to go through all the problems and issues and craziness and liability and lawsuits and all that stuff over the time.
Right. Yeah. And I'll just say this and then we'll transition a little bit talking about some of the other stuff. But to be honest, I've never been a real big proponent of arbitrage myself. I think it certainly has a place and is a very successful industry, but it's just not the business model that I subscribe to. And one of the big reasons, and you alluded to it there, is that it does have a pretty high risk profile. And at the end of the day, there is a big third party risk, right? In that whether it's it's the landlords that you're leasing from, and that can be taken from you. And so your business can grow very quickly and it can shrink very quickly. And you don't have necessarily you don't have the assets to back it up, versus the ownership model is what I'm a big proponent of. You have the assets, you have value of appreciation and equity, and you have the significant tax advantages, but it may not be as lucrative in terms of cash flow or the ability to scale the cash flow like arbitrage. So I've always looked at it as arbitrage is awesome and probably the direction you want to go if you're looking at purely like a cash flow play. If you're looking more for a long-term wealth building play, then something like an ownership model is probably going to be more well suited. But it all depends on what everybody's individual goals are and what type of ownership or what type of investing model is going to work for people. But that's the way I've looked at things. Are you looking more towards long-term wealth building, or are you looking more towards cash flow? And not let that decide what your investing model is going to be.
Before we transition to working out, because we were talking about being competitive, so that'll be good with working out as well. But what, for income purposes, so I think on a debt to income ratio perspective and financing and stuff, I won't get in the weeds of this, but did you do an S Corp in Illinois? You said you're in Illinois, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you do an S Corp because the tax benefits were better for an S Corp in Illinois, or what was your reasoning for an S Corp? I know you said it was passed through income, which can be complicated to explain, but you paid W-2 to yourself. What is it?
Okay. So when I first started the business, I knew the idea of like LLCs and C Corps and S Corps, but I'm not an expert at that. I had to ask an expert, which was my accountant, what do you recommend is best for my situation? And then he recommended the S Corp. And he would probably have explained me the reasons why, but this is 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and things become a blur. And then I knew it at that time. Now I don't. But there has been times over the years where I have asked them, is our current structure the correct structure that we have going on? Because obviously I want to lower my tax liability.
Right.
For one, from my understanding on how a S Corp is, I have my W-2 salary, which is you got to have a reasonable W-2 salary for the position and size of company that you have. And in mine, I think, I don't know, whatever it is, $150,000 W-2 income. And then so I pay whatever taxes are associated with that the payroll taxes and I don't know, whatever it is. And then in my P&L of my business, after the revenue, cost of goods sold, operating expenses, salaries, all that, then my net income that I make from my business ends up getting passed through to my personal income, if I'm saying this right. And that gets taxed at a certain rate that is lower than if I took a distribution from a C Corp. A C Corp would be better if I just continuously reinvested that capital back in my business. But because of the comment that you mentioned on arbitrage business is not a equity type business, I want to take my money into ownership and other things, even though I haven't, because I started other situations have happened. I didn't buy real estate, I buy cars. But I understand that I want to take chips off the table and invest in long-term wealth because there is no equity in my business. I don't have any assets in my business. I have furniture that's worth $0 after you put it in, and I have leases. So I don't have something that I could like get out of that.
Right.
Very difficult to sell a arbitrage business. Barely ever happens. But I make so much money that I could take that money into something else.
You claim your Rolls Royce under your business?
Yes. So I do, because it's a car that weighs over 6,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So you could write that off fully 100% in that With last year, it was 100% Section 179. So he gave me like $30,000-$40,000 worth of tax savings. It was not like the craziest thing. It wouldn't have made a difference in a drop in the bucket. But it was interesting concept to know. It was actually one year, like 2021, when I had a huge net income, and I was seeing like, oh, my tax bill is going to be $350,000. I was like, in December 15th, I was like, hey, if I buy these 2 Rolls Royces of $500,000 each, I could essentially save $350,000. But I couldn't get like the confidence to pull a trigger on something that expensive.
Yeah.
But like I was thinking of different things to do during the last like 2 weeks of the year like that. But yeah, I ended up paying that $350,000. It was worst feeling.
Yeah. Let's talk about the cars. Do you invest in them, or is it more just a passion?
So both. Everything I do has some finance backing to it. Over the last 2 years is when I started making good money and started buying the cars. And I bought these cars in the best time of a lifetime, because during the pandemic, there was a lot of money flowing, right? Everything was, even luxury items were increasing in price. People were at home. They wanted to spend money on nice things still. So every car I bought during the pandemic, 6 months later, it would be worth like $10,000-$15,000 more. Right. So I would buy a Maserati, a McLaren, a Ferrari. My Ferrari, after 3-4 months, I sold it for $40,000 more than I bought it for.
Wow.
But my intention was not to make money off this. I didn't need to make money off cars. I don't want to get into another business, but I like driving them. They make me feel good when I go to a restaurant, go out to dinner, go to the gym.
Yeah, I don't think you can cry if the wind's blowing in your hair playing Ferrari. Like you just can't be upset at that. So
right. It makes you feel good. It gives you confidence. I liked it. That's why I was buying them and I was benefiting off of it. Now the market has changed. Now I'm losing, but my losses are minimal because I buy these cars used. Depreciation is significantly down. I go for the higher end cars, so the supply is low. So if somebody wants the car, I could set the price and it won't go lower than that price. I would say like some of the cars that I buy, like the Lamborghini that I bought, the cost of ownership of that car will be a lot less than the brand new Civic if somebody bought that and sold it after a year or two. So they are smart, in my opinion, or maybe I make that argument to make myself feel better.
I want to talk to you like offline about some of these cars too. Then maybe I can talk my husband into getting a Rolls Royce for business purposes. He'll be like, no.
So how many exotic cars do you have?
Oh, at the moment,
yeah,
I have a Lamborghini Huracan Evo. I have the Rolls Royce Wraith. I have an Acura NSX, and I have a G-Wagon, and I have some family cars.
Awesome. And which one's your favorite?
They all have a purpose. They're all really nice. It's hard to choose.
Gotta be careful in case
they're not listening. Don't worry.
The IRS is, they all have a business purpose. So
only the Wraith is a business write-off because of the
6,000 pounds.
His family car isn't like a Ferrari.
No,
it's
family
like a car seat in the back seat of. Is there a back seat for Ferrari?
No, there was not a back seat of the Ferrari.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
All right, fitness.
Yeah. We've talked about, very stressful business. You got a lot going on. So part of your outlet, as we touched on offline, one of your big outlets for that is the physical fitness aspect and sports and that type of thing. So why don't you just tell us about that? What's your go-to for when you have a rough day?
Yeah. So even though it doesn't look like it, but I do go to the gym a lot. I probably go to the gym every day. Sometimes I don't work out. It's just the gym has been like my lifestyle, where it's where my community is. It's where my now friends are. It's where I get my social aspect of it. I go there to either play pickleball. I go to a Lifetime Fitness, so like pickleball is huge now. And then when I can, I would play basketball. My body can't take basketball as much anymore. But my kids go to the kids academy, and I like to have a lifestyle of them knowing that Lifetime is a place that we're going to go for the rest of our lives. I tell them, even though they say, I don't want to go. I'm like, no, this is going to be an everyday thing for the rest of your life. Not every day, but we're going to go all the time.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just go to do work. I sit in the cafe, I do work, look at my phone, handle my stuff on my phone. I'll go to the sauna. I'll go to the pool. I'll go to the jacuzzi. I'll go upstairs to work out. And then I almost like my wife says, "Are you working out or are you working out your thumbs?" Because I'm like on my phone the whole time. Like in
Both.
between. That's yeah.
I am working my mind.
I need it. I cannot work without having that type of thing in my life. The gym just keeps on increasing their pricing. Like I'm probably paying $600 a month. And I tell my friends, listen, if it was like $2,000 a month, I'll still pay for it. It's just like what I will do. So all my life is I always played sports. I played basketball. Now it's pickleball, but we played football. Like it's just what I always did, and that's how I grew up. And in my opinion, that I am who I am today in entrepreneurship is because how I was with like sports and fitness. Like my confidence, my mentality, my wanting to win all the time, my thing of trying to figure out strategies to win, I believe has been an impact to how I am in my entrepreneurship career. And I think one thing is because I've had so many injuries in like sports where I can't play as much, because I'm not distracted with sports, is like I apply that like mindset to entrepreneurship. So I say sometimes, hey, if I didn't have injuries, instead of doing like business and figuring out ways to make money, I'd probably been playing basketball right now, you know? So things happen for a reason. I'm getting old now. You can't do that forever. But now it's like, this is my outlet to be like competitive, to have strategies. This is almost like a strategy game to me. And I just love it. It's like you come up with a strategy, you think about it, you implement it, and then you see it like flow through and see what if did that strategy that you have work or not.
Right.
And the result is money. Like you could see it, the more money you make, yeah, it worked. If you lost money, then no, that didn't work. Change it up.
Right.
Did you play basketball in like high school and college or what?
I tried. I wasn't as good. And I started getting my injuries, my ACL injuries. But like my team for like high school, they all went like D1. They were like really good. So I wasn't as good as them. But all those guys is who I play basketball with now. Because after they got other like college careers, we play open gym together.
Did you play any sports in high school?
Yeah. So I played a little bit of football, and then I played basketball a lot, but not on the team. Yeah.
I want to back it up to Lifetime Fitness really quick.
Yeah.
So I'm back and forth from Tennessee to Texas, and like in Texas, I passed this like huge place, and it's like Lifetime Fit. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. I look at Kale. We could live there.
I've heard of them. I haven't been to them, but yeah, I'm super.
They're amazing, but I can't justify the price per month. Now in my head, I've got it rolling. How can I arbitrage a gym membership? So I can't, but it looks awesome.
Work out of it, and then you could give it a reason to like get that membership. Say you'll go there to give an hour or two in working on your personal brand, and that can end up giving you 10x the amount of dollars membership cost.
I do work while I'm on the treadmill at the gym.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be it.
It's just like the culture, the energy in there. It's just like a place you want to be.
Yeah, that's why they call it Lifetime.
Lifetime.
Yeah.
Because you'll be there for a lifetime.
But no,
it's true. If you surround yourself with like-minded people, like people that are going to that gym are going to better themselves physically or mentally or both. And then that could also be business opportunities for you that you don't even know of. But let me tell you you asked him what pumps him up or whatever from his stress of the day. What freaking pumps him up probably, which would pump me up, is driving the Ferrari to the Lifetime Fitness.
100%.
Getting out, shaking your old pre-workout. It's always like those videos that have the slow motion coming from the car into the Lifetime Fitness. And then people are like, God, I need to know who this is. And that's what it is, I think. So.
Whatever it takes. If that's the reason why it makes me go to the gym that day is because, hey, I want to park my car there, then that's a good thing. Whatever it takes to get you motivated to go do something good is that. So yeah, I use that as motivation too.
Yeah. I'll even, if I see a Ferrari, like in Miami, there's a lot, right? There's Ferraris, Lambos and stuff. Me and my husband are weird. We'll wait. If we go to a grocery store and we see one, I'll wait and I'll see who's driving the car because I just want to see what they do. It's intriguing because people that have those types of cars are either A, using them as an investment strategy for tax purposes, or B, just rich out of their minds. And either way, I just want to know what they do.
Yeah. Just back to the fitness, and there's always a crossover between, not always, but typically a crossover between entrepreneurs and physical fitness, right? Because like you were saying, and it has a lot of the same mindset and disciplines between the two, right? It's about problem solving. It's about growth. It's about doing hard things. It's about pain and sacrifice to some level, right? To obtain that growth. And so that's why they're oftentimes interlinked, right? And so when you look at real high performing entrepreneurs, they're typically pretty physically fit as well. So it has a lot to do with just the personality and the mindset of it all.
Right.
And having that outlet for that mental stress, because at those levels, being an entrepreneur, of course, is a very stressful thing. Physical outlet to be able to manage that is super critical.
Mark Zuckerberg, like super fit now, like abs and everything. Now he looks like a badass.
He's about to go box.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, he's got to be.
Yeah. And he looks good at jujitsu too. He is like legit. And then Jeff Bezos came out with his arms and like super swole and everything. So it seems like that's, if your like mind and body is at top level, then performance in your work would be as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think it goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning with your persistence and how you got started in your business. And I made the comment of that's where a lot of people would stop, because just in general, people do not want to put in hard work or do hard things. We seek out comfort. We seek out the path of least resistance. And that's just, that's the way people are by nature for the most part. But it's the people who break through it, push through that, who do those hard things, that are able to push forward and be more successful. And it's just an example from my life is, so I have 3 kids. My oldest is 12 years old, and maybe it's the age, I don't know, but it's a constant struggle because I'm, at this point, at least, a person who's willing to do those hard things and actually enjoys it to some degree. But he's at this stage where it's like hard things, that's the last thing that he wants to even think about or do. And so it's this constant tension between us of me trying to teach and instill those values and disciplines in him, and him being like, yeah, no way.
Right.
I think that's just the age, because I feel like we all had that.
I really
in
hope
us.
so.
Yeah, I know. You're stressing me out. I'm worried that what's gonna happen as my kids get older and that kind of stuff will happen. I deal with crazy stuff now, so it's like, I can't imagine when they're older and they like talk back and they just won't listen to a thing I say. I have 4 kids. 4 little kids. So 7, 5, 3, 1.
Oh wow!
Wow.
The good thing is that they're all still at fun ages right now.
It's fun. Yeah. Like we just had a great summer. I think this was like a summer that really changed our relationship with my kids. I usually put them in the past, like daycare, summer camp. So like they'll be out during the day. But like this year I was like, all right, I was too busy to figure out like something for them. So it's like I hung out with them like every day, all day. Don't get me wrong. It was like super hectic and like crazy every day. But I started noticing like our personalities and our conversations. I'm like always like sarcastic and a little mean and stuff. And then they're like a little mean back to me with making fun of me and stuff. And it's just, I had like great laughs with them during the summer that I would have like with my friends. So I like joke with my daughter, yeah, you're my best friend. You're my best friend. I love talking to you. It was a great summer. I really enjoyed the summer with them.
That's awesome.
But I am excited that they're going back to school though.
A bit.
Yeah.
So the 4 kids, boys, girls, what's
3 girls and 1 boy.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. And the boy, is that the youngest, or?
He's 3 years old. So I have another one that's 1 year old. So but always crazy, always fighting at home nonstop. I'm like a UFC referee. That's what I am, stopping the fights.
Gosh. All right. You make me feel better, because sometimes I feel like it's just my household.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, mine are 3. He's almost 4 now, and almost 10 and 12. But yeah, the 10 and 12-year-olds are like at each other's throat from sun down.
Yeah.
And the 4-year-old, he's still at that age where everything's fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is hectic.
Yeah.
Does your wife raise the kids, or does she have a job, or what does your wife do?
His wife is stay at home.
Okay.
We also have her mom that helps us.
Oh, nice.
And then also I'm like stay at home. I don't have anywhere to be. It's all hands on deck. And it's still, and we have daycares and activity. Like we have a lot of help, but yeah, it's never enough, I guess.
Yeah. Do you have the kids doing various activities at this point, like whether it's sports or?
Oh yeah. So my oldest daughter, 7 years old, like she loves every single sport and activity, and there's not. She says no to nothing. Like she does gymnastics, she does basketball, 2 leagues of basketball, she does soccer, a league, and then she does taekwondo. She tried jujitsu and she liked it, and she wants to do. I don't have enough days and time to do that.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
It's so awesome that she's doing all that at a young age, because it's like you can figure out what you like and don't like at a younger age, and then you grow in those fields. Like I know people that aren't until their 30s try jujitsu, and it's she has the opportunity to try all of that.
So like she loves everything, and then like my 4-year-old that's turning 5 is opposite. Like I can't get her to, or she says she wants to do it and she goes in excitingly, but when she's there, she will not follow not one direction. And then after she says, I don't want to do this. But I hope as time goes on and she sees that this is like what our family is, like we're an active family and this is all we do, then she will do that as well. So let's see.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Yeah. I just got our 3 into jujitsu very recently.
Nice.
And
3 years old?
Yeah. So all 3 of them are in there, but yeah, the 3-year-old is doing it as well.
A 3-year-old's doing jujitsu? Like, how does that even work?
It is. It's the cutest thing.
He's going to put you in a chokehold and you're going to have to tap out
that's
by
what
the
I'm
time
worried
he's
about. Like by the
5
time
years
he's
old.
7 years old, he's going to kick my butt.
Yeah.
But yeah, right now it's the cutest thing. Like his gi is like too big for him, and it looks like the Marshmallow Man wearing it and trying to do his rolls and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very like basic for him. It's more trying to get him to pay attention, follow instructions, and learn some of the moves and stuff like that as he can. But the older ones, it's for me at least, it's more of a focus on trying to get them more disciplined, start understanding and pushing through the hard things that I was talking about earlier, and start getting into that mentality. Because I think at their ages, they really need that. They just started, like this is over the past couple of weeks, so we'll see how it goes here. But yeah, I'm excited for them to get started in it. So
awesome.
Yeah. But cool, man. That has been really good. Learned a lot. Like I said, first time having an arbitrage professional on the show here. So we learned a lot about the business and the industry. You've done an awesome job and growing things as quickly as you have and maintaining that growth. And so I wish you the best of your luck. And just to close it out, we like to ask a couple questions. So one is, are there 3 actionable or practical tips that you can leave our audience with based on what we've discussed today?
So I'll try to think of some tips right now, but I think I touched base on it earlier, but is to take action in what you're doing. You don't have to go for like the home run like I did and work with big landlords, but whatever you have to do to get your foot in the business, try it out and do it. You'll be okay. You will figure it out. So one is just to take action. Do learn. Go to YouTube, go to Instagram, get yourself understanding of how to do things, get into Facebook groups, but take that step and take action.
Awesome.
That's number 1. Number 2 is do some research in advance in what you're doing. Do spend time on the education side of it. And there's a lot of free resources out there. There's also a lot of paid resources out there. Just be careful on who you work with and what they're offering. Like I recently got into the personal brand space where eventually I'll get into coaching. I haven't done any of that yet, but I do feel like I'll be able to provide value to somebody that's starting off where you won't make the mistakes that I went through, or you'll learn from the mistakes that I went through to make sure you don't do that and you don't have those costly mistakes in your business.
Right.
And number 3 is figure out how to manage your problems and stress. And whether it's like meditation, working out, playing sports, hanging out with friends, whatever it is, do figure out how to handle your stress, because this business, you'll have a lot of stress.
Yeah. Wonderful. Brenna?
I'm only 14 years old, guys. That's a lot of stress.
With a lot of white hair, losing a lot of hair too.
Okay. You're in Chicago, so please don't disappoint me on this question.
Well,
what is your favorite pizza, from where and why?
So my favorite pizza is Luminati's.
Okay. I don't know
So
if I've heard of that.
So, from my understanding, it's the famous pizza, but maybe because I'm local to the market, that's what I know. The other one is Giordano's. You've heard of that one?
Giordano's that's
Yeah.
the one I know.
But
Illuminati
yeah,
sounds intriguing.
yeah. Look it up, and I think they even deliver nationally.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's like,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it's a deep dish pizza, but it's like different. Like the sauce is like more tomatoes
Mm,
than like actual tomato sauce.
right.
You said
So,
Illuminati's pizza?
yep,
Okay.
highly recommend it. Very
What
famous.
kind? What kind do you like? What's your favorite kind?
I eat cheese. I
Me
don't
too.
have like so it's not like special toppings or anything. I eat cheese
Me too.
pizza. Yeah, so that's good. All right, so we're on the same page with that.
All right. We're gonna have to reschedule just because I know me and you can nerd out in finance and then
Yeah.
pizza. So we'll have to.
We'll come to Chicago. I could show you Illuminati's,
That's fine.
and
I'll write it
we'll
off
go on
as
the Rolls Royce.
yeah. Awesome. Woohoo.
Awesome. Very good. And yeah, we appreciate your time. And why don't you tell us where, now that you're building your personal brand, where can people find you, reach out to you, follow you?
Yeah, so follow me on Instagram at Syed B&B. That's where I'm posting a lot of like my content, a lot of my daily life, tips, and some cars.
Perfect. Awesome. Check him out. If you're interested in arbitrage, hit him up. He's obviously got a lot of experience. And again, we appreciate your time, Syed. And
Thank you.
we'll see you guys next week.